Well, top of the morning, Southern Oregon, and welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate and your host of the Real Estate Show. Today, we're lucky to have Guy Giles from Mutual Mortgage back. He's our in-house lender. He comes on once a month and tries to explain to us what the Federal Reserve Bank is trying to do. He's also going to talk to us about what's going on in the world of mortgages. And I heard before the show that he's got a new program that is no money down. In addition to the regular VA program and the USDA, he's got some great news about a new program for people that are not buying in the countryside like the USDA folks do. And if you're not a veteran, they've got a third option for a no money down home mortgage. So Guy Giles is going to be coming in here and we'll get to interview and hear all the good things and explanations that are going on. In the meantime, I do want to give some local stats because, you know, Rogue Valley Association of Realtors and Southern Oregon MLS put out these fabulous reports quarterly and annually, and we just got our updated numbers. And a lot of people in the news are talking about a crash. And so I thought I wanted to take a minute and today talk about the short sale and foreclosure activity in our three counties versus what we had this time in March between 2009 and 2010. So check it out. Back in Jackson County in 2009, between 2009 and 2010, Jackson County had 211 short sales. This last quarter, we have one. Our foreclosures in Jackson County back between 2009, March 3rd, 2009, 2010, our foreclosure was 725. Today, we have 8. So yes, we're starting to get some short sale and foreclosure activity, but it's nothing like what we had before. Josephine County, short sale activity between March 3rd, 2009 and 2010. Josephine County short sale was 44. Today is 0. Josephine County foreclosure activity between March 3rd, 2009 and 2010, our foreclosure activity was 194 houses in Josephine County. This time right now, we have 4 in Josephine County. So you can see there's a huge difference. Klamath back then had 1 short sale. Today has none. Klamath County back in 2009 had 16 foreclosures. And this time now they have 5. So we don't think we're having a crash, but we're tracking the numbers, folks. Okay. So stay tuned. Guy Giles, Mutual Mortgage coming on. It's going to be a great interview. Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. Guy Giles is joining us today. He comes on the show first of every month from Mutual Mortgage. Guy, thank you for being on the show again today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be back. I wish we were talking a little happier on the home loan rate side, but pretty soon I do think that some of that stuff's going to turn around. We got a little bit of relief in January, and then some numbers came out on jobs reports. I think we talked about this just a little bit before the break, but
yeah, let's talk about that again, because that was a super cool point that you were making.
Well, we had a really strong jobs number. At least that's kind of what it came out, and that's what it was told to all the media. And I had to do some digging into it because just something didn't smell quite right. And what I got was that there were some adjustments made to the numbers that came out in February. And this will end up with a good, some hopefully good news at the end of the story. But right now it's just a little bit uglier on the home loan rates. Not terrible, just still around probably where the average has been for forever. So even though it feels a lot like doom and gloom, like the rates are through the roof, and they are compared to where they were, but they were unnaturally low for a long, long time. Right. And a lot of people bought at double and triple these rates. Not that anybody wants to, but it's still a good investment. I think we kind of went over some of those numbers on the last show, and I can put some together because it's, if we want to talk about that a little more later on, because it is still a good thing to do as far as buying a house. But kind of back to the numbers, what we had was an increase of 894,000 600,000 jobs in February. 606,000 of those were part-time, and nobody in the media decided to really
That's
talk
like
about that.
3/4. So 3/4 of the new jobs were part-time.
Right. So we're talking about having the lowest job numbers in 50 years, and it's skewed. So that said, who really cares if people want to take a victory lap over a jobs number, whether it's right or wrong? But it does affect our home loan rates, because the perceived thing is that everything is going as planned, and we have a real strong job market. So, a little bit of inflation isn't the end of the world. And really the inflation is what's driving our rates. We had something that I'd never heard of before called the population control adjustment, which sounds, I don't even know what it sounds like, but I mean, it's something they should be writing a movie about.
Population control adjustment.
Yeah. And it took me a little bit of time to figure out what it was. And basically there were a lot of illegal, undocumented people. I don't know what politically correct is, because I don't really study that crap. But either way, these were a bunch of undocumented workers that had jobs. So they decided to count those in, even though those jobs happened, over a year ago. They decided to count them in February of 2023 and call it the population control adjustment. So it artificially inflated, between the part-time jobs and between some of the adjustments that they had made. We probably only should have had about 84,000 jobs created rather than 894 jobs. I do think on March 10th that some more realistic numbers will come out, because how often can you adjust for something that happened a year and a half ago, for part of this? And hopefully investors are smart enough, which I think they are, to realize that, a bunch of part-time jobs, if you have 2 part-time jobs, that doesn't mean that everybody has a job. But that all said, politics is going to be politics, no matter who's in the office, no matter what's happening. And as sad as it is, I do think that there's going to be some relief in the next week, maybe even as soon as Wednesday. And I can't say it for sure. I've been calling for lower rates for a little while, and I can't adjust for people making things up, to be perfectly honest with you. So we just do the best we can. And, the inflation, finally, the Fed has done what the Fed had to do, which is their only mandate, which was control inflation. There are a couple rogue Feds out there right now, saying that we need to raise rates all the way into 2024. I don't really see that happening. That's just a couple of ones that out of all of them that there are. So I'm thinking another rate hike, maybe 2 more, and then we'll see some sanity. But I'm hoping to see a little bit of relief, like we did in January. We were starting to see things before these jobs numbers came out, to help us out. So, in the meantime, what we're doing is we're starting to really look at buy downs, and because there's nobody saying rates are not going to go down. I mean, whether or not or when the Fed is going to start relieving some of this other stuff, and I want to make sure I'm clear on that. When we're talking about what the Fed does, the Fed has control over second mortgages, over credit cards, over car loans, things like that. They don't directly they don't directly impact the mortgages. Those are traded on the mortgage-backed securities. People are looking at a lot longer term investment. If you're looking at, locking in a rate for 30 years, granted, people don't usually have loans that long, but that's, what they're looking at. And overall, if you can make money doing something on a shorter term, why invest for, 3.5% for the next 30 years potentially? So again, we're not tied directly to the Fed, but it is inflation that drives it. The 10-year Treasury is up. I don't expect this to mean a lot to somebody, 75 basis points since that jobs report came out. But you have to figure that 75 is a number out of, what was it? 360 is where it started. So, I mean, it's proportionately, it's a big jump that we went up in February on the 10-year Treasury. And again, people, it's a matter of what people are going to get over time. And that's, where our home loan rates are right now. Nobody wants to, well, investors love getting, 6-7%, but to be honest, they all know that rates are going to go down also. So people are just looking towards some alternatives, and some of it is buy downs where the seller will contribute basically the interest for the next 2 years to buy down that rate. So instead of overbidding on a house, what you could actually do when it's like this, is maybe talk about them contributing that way to buy down your rate until somebody has a chance to or an opportunity to refinance, rather than lowering the price on the house. So
Or
that's
crediting closing costs.
yes, yeah. So we're definitely seeing that a lot. We're still thinking mid-year that we're going to get some decent relief in rates. Fannie Mae isn't quite as low as what they were thinking, but we're still talking mid-low fives. And historically, that's still a really, really good rate. And when you factor in inflation, as far as at least your home prices and the tax write-offs that you get, there are a lot of really good reasons to buy. For
And
sure.
and we do have more inventory, at least in our market in Southern Oregon, than a lot of places in the United States. I was talking to somebody yesterday back east, and they're actually going into a second round of the hyper accelerated seller market that we experienced a year and two years ago. So some of the bigger real estate markets in the United States are starting to see multiple offers again, prices going up. We have some multiple offers happening here, but not like it was. And we do have 23 to 43% more houses than we did this time last year. However, it's still not enough. So when your borrowers are talking to you about getting pre-approved, are they saying anything about that?
Well, I think kind of speaking to what you just said, they're on the right house. It's there is a lot of competition for the right house. I think there's some inventory out there, but they are complaining that there's just not a lot to choose from, especially in different price points around here. I've had a couple of them in the last couple of weeks say, well, we're just going to kind of lay back, save a little bit more money, and kind of stay put, until we're ready. Even though these first-time home buyers, which is kind of what I'm talking about on these couple of buyers,
gotcha. Mm-hmm.
They're probably the biggest demographic buying houses right now, all the way around. So we definitely don't want to ignore the young people. Again, they're not all home playing video games and acting dumb. A lot of them have got good careers, and they put things together. They're just looking for that one little thing to tip them over the edge to pull the trigger, and they just don't see it as the rates kind of tick up a little bit. And again, that won't be forever, but when they do decide to finally commit and pull the trigger on a house, there has been a couple multiple offers on some of those houses around, and rightly so. They're priced well. So I mean, if you're searching with Alice or somebody right now, just keep your eyes out every day, because sometimes somebody needs to move or they're downsizing, and when that one pops up, you really do want to be ready to go.
You really do, because there's still a lot of good properties on the market. But I'm noticing the same thing you are, Guy, that people are possibly trying to save a little more money, because that is a way to influence your monthly payment, right? If you have a little more down payment.
It always helps for sure.
Yeah. But what we really need is, I think this is a great opportunity for people to get their house sold while we still have a nice amount of buyers and not as much competition, and take advantage of the lower prices. Because here's what I'm afraid of is, if we go into another bona fide seller market because we don't have enough houses to sell, then the prices go up. And right now it's kind of nice. The prices are a little bit lower, and it's really kind of buttering everything up so the buyers can afford the monthly payment, even with the higher interest rate.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit on my side. When somebody writes a decent offer, I think that there's a lot of optimism that it's actually going to get accepted right now, because in the past, I'd say, I'll ship you off a letter, and by the way, I'm available this weekend in case you don't get that one and you find another
Oh,
one.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that we've been getting accepted have been decent offers, so definitely it's good to have a good real estate agent that knows what he or she is talking about, so that you can write the correct offer for what's going on out, with that particular house. And there's no reason that you can't get an accepted offer and get the seller to help you out a little bit.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at the market more as a perfect storm, but I totally understand there's a lot of opinions out there. But gosh, we still have people getting some great deals, and they're getting a home, and they're going to get to keep that appreciation. We're talking to Guy Giles, Mutual Mortgage. Thank you, by the way, being one of our sponsors. We are going to have to take a quick break here, but we're very thankfully brought to you by Guy Giles of Mutual Mortgage, John L. Scott, Ashland and Medford, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, RVAR. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support. We also want to remind you, we're going to be on again Sunday at 6 p.m. We'll be right back after this quick word. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate and the host of your show. Thank you for joining us again. We get to be interviewing Guy Giles again today from Mutual Mortgage, our in-house lender. And we were, before the break, talking about first-time home buyers, interest rates, and the housing shortage we still have. So, Guy, let's talk a little bit more about first-time home buyers and some of the loan program updates that you have for them.
Well, first-time home buyers, what we're doing a lot of is we have one of our investors that will do an FHA 100% financing, which,
What?
yeah, I don't get out much, I guess. So I haven't really mentioned it. So it's basically, it's a second mortgage behind it.
Really?
And
On an FHA? Let's
yes.
back up just a quick, hold that thought. Tell people what the FHA program normally is, because this is a super big deal.
Well, so what changed on the FHA, the actual FHA, was that they had lowered some of their mortgage insurance. So say on a $350 house, your mortgage insurance, instead of being $247 a month, would be about $160 a month. So
Wow.
that helps a lot, but that's actually something a little bit separate as far as any changes with the FHA. It's just a program we have where you can do a second mortgage for the difference in your down payment. So it's a little bit higher rate, which you're going to give up something, no matter what. But we actually got somebody approved that had finished school, making a great deal of money, but she decided to spend all her money the last year or so moving and paying off all of her debts. So she just didn't have a lot of cash, but makes a really good living and is just wanting to get into a house. So what we'll do is, again, just do a second mortgage that covers the, that covers the down payment. And then if you have some sellers contribute to the closing costs, you can basically get in for about nothing. And please don't mistake this for the terrible loans that were going on in 2006, 2007. Right. It's nothing like that. You're fully qualifying for this. And, you probably not going to be in this loan forever, because things will start going up and, you can get out of it. So, but it's a good way to get in and get in the game if for some reason you hadn't been able to save a down payment. You guys know I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to money, and I would really like to see, somebody actually have a down payment. But this was a really viable option for this gal that's moving to town, physical therapy, great job, and just didn't have that because she was trying to be responsible with her other things. But now she doesn't have to wait, so it's really not a bad deal. The other thing that's kind of cool about it is a lot of these first-time homebuyer programs, like the Fannie Mae, Home Ready program, you're limited to about 80% of what the median income is, which brings you down to about 60, bear with me 1 second, $61,000 of income. Well, it's hard to afford a house on that income. This program will go to 160% of the median income. So for Jackson County, that's around $81,000, 81,400 to be more specific. So if you were to run this, that brings you up a little bit over $130,000 of income, and you could still qualify for this program.
Wow,
So,
that's kind of cool.
yeah,
And it's certainly appropriate for the market we're in. So FHA, no money down. You're doing a second mortgage on the backside to cover the down payment. And this is for people who have a lot of income, but not
yeah, I mean,
not
yeah,
cash saved up in the bank.
yes, yeah. So it's a better way than going to buy a motorhome, I suppose. At least you'll have something that's worth something down the road a
I'm
little
sorry,
bit.
why would somebody buy a motorhome?
Oh, I'm saying it's a better idea than going to do, just buy a bunch of recreational vehicles or
Oh,
something.
you mean for like toys, boats and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
you should definitely buy a
clean up
house
your
before you
credit.
buy boats and motorhomes. But
That
that's just
came
our
off all
opinion.
weird.
As
At least
old
you have it.
people.
Well, the other part that people just don't think about enough a lot of times as first-time home buyers, I mean, I sit across from them all the time where I educate them on some of the tax write-offs that they'll have on their house. And they don't even realize it until we're sitting down here face to face. And if you do have a high income, that kind of offsets your payment. So, and I haven't done that math with me right now, but you have to figure whatever you're paying in that interest, you could basically take off of, and make that, what are you paying for rent right now versus what would your new mortgage be? It brings them a lot closer together. And if you go beyond that and figure that rents on average go up about 7% per year, it's not long before you're paying a whole lot more in rent, then you don't have any equity in a house that you didn't buy, and you're actually paying more, even if it doesn't look like it at the, the first of every month when you get paid. Once you reconcile all those taxes at the end of the year, though, that is real savings that you get by writing off, depending on your income, the mortgage insurance, but you can write off your taxes, you write off your interest. So there's still some really good deductions that it's easy to get caught up in. Rates are a little bit higher than they were before, but just couple in that you're not bidding in a bidding war, that you can ask them for some contributions to help you. You could ask them to help buy down your rate, and you can permanently buy down your rate too. It does not have to be one of these 2-1 buy downs. You'll get
Oh,
a
that's
little,
good.
yeah, I mean, you'll get a little bit bigger bang for your buck immediately on the 2-1 buy down. But I just like to talk about both options with people. But then
Hmm.
you realize the appreciation on top of the tax write-offs, mathematically, it's still a really good time to buy.
And we're still making money on our real estate in Southern Oregon. And I don't want people to be confused because the prices, I just said the prices are lower, but there's still so much equity. So if you think of, you just think of the market went way up, it came down and settled a little bit, but there's still a big chunk of equity, and we're up from this time last year. Klamath County, 8%, Josephine County, I think 5%, Jackson County, 4%. So, and we still don't have enough houses. And what I'm discovering is with programs like this guy, 100% financing for an FHA buyer in the right circumstance, they can get a home. And the sellers are not so resistant right now because the sellers want to sell, and they're being more moderate with their demands. And that just wasn't the case a year ago, 2 years ago, where we'd have buyers in tears, grown-ups, because they just kept losing out on all these properties.
Oh, I know. It was heartbreaking. And then they'd come in and they'd tell me, hey, I want to go offer 40,000 over. And I'm just like, sadly, the thing will probably appraise in this market, but what what are you thinking? I mean, it's just, it was tough. It was really hard, like you said, and heartbreaking to watch these people over and over and over do that. Just from what you said a minute ago, what do you think the average like house is around here right now?
Klamath is in the 320 to 350.
Just say like Jackson County-ish.
Jackson County is over 5 as an average. And then Josephine County is in the high 4s. It's kind of bouncing around between 450 and 480. But
Yeah,
those
so
are averages. Those are not median
no.
people. Those are averages. If you run the median, then it's a different number.
Well, if we just went with the $500,000 and say you were putting 10% down, which would be $50,000. So if you have that thing sitting in a bank account or sitting in, I'm not saying necessarily cash out your investments to do this, but if you just had it someplace working for you, I don't think you'd be anywhere near $22,000. And that's at the lower 4.5 where we are right now. And that's what I mean mathematically. It still makes sense. You have a $500,000 asset appreciating at 4.5%, or you have a $50,000 bank account depreciating because of inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't even worth the 50,000 when you put it in there, because if you adjust for all these things, you might as well have something that, even if it breaks even, you're not going in the hole.
And you have a place to live.
Yes, absolutely. And that's not even 25% of what things have been going up around here. So I mean, that's actually where we are right now is more of a historical number. If you go back 80, 90 years, about 4.3, 4.5% is where you're at least going to get. And that's compounding. Now, next year you have a $522,000 asset.
I just ran the calculation. We're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Even at a 4%, which is kind of a slow roll for Southern Oregon, only because we are the lifestyle location. So 520 in 1 year, your house could easily go up $20,000.
Oh, all day long.
But your mortgage is set static. Yeah. I think you're right, Guy. I think people are not running all the numbers. They're not adding in the tax benefit. They're not adding in the appreciation.
And the sad part is I know exactly where they're coming from. It's like, hey, if I would have talked to you a year ago, I would have been here. Well, if you weren't ready a year ago and you weren't in the market, it doesn't matter. And I completely understand where they're coming from, because the payment will be up from where it was. But what's the alternative? You wait for rates to come down a little bit. And like you said, you're in a bidding war again against everybody else. It's a seller's market. And, if it doesn't pencil, that's fine. But I think it's definitely worth a little bit of time to see if it does. And I know I helped, my kiddo out when she bought her house. I had a little bit of money sitting there that I had kind of ready for that. And I think it did a whole lot better doing that than it did sitting in my bank account, not really doing anything right now. So maybe the family jumps in.
Yeah. And we don't want, in Oregon, being a tenant is hard. Now, there's times in your life where being a tenant is appropriate. There's always that element in our community, and people go in and out of rentals because that's appropriate for their lifestyle. But to make it kind of a career for your lifestyle, to be a tenant year after year after year, look what they've lost. And it's very hard to be a tenant in Oregon because the landlord-tenant laws are they're just restrictive. I'm not being judgmental. I'm not being political. They're just restrictive by design. So then there's this adverse effect where the rents go up. And if people don't want to be landlords, there's a lot of those landlords selling these buildings, and they're not being purchased by other investors. So I think we're helping our first-time home buyers and tenant community by getting them into a house.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just a good thing to see. I mean, I don't know how much time we have left in the segment, but my parents paid $118,000 rent when I was growing up. And you got to figure, I wasn't growing up right now. I'm older than that. But that was a house that was paid no more than probably $22,000 for when the landlord bought it. And my parents paid $118,000. I'm sure they're still renting it out.
They probably bought that guy two times over, right?
Probably 5 or 6, to be really honest.
We got to take a quick break. Hold that thought. We're talking to Guy Giles, Mutual Mortgage, our in-house lender. We're going to take a quick break. So don't touch this dial. We've got more great information from Guy Giles. We'll be right back. We also want to remind you, we're going to be on again Sunday at 6 p.m. We'll be right back after this quick word. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. We're talking to Guy Giles of Mutual Mortgage. During the break, Guy, you were talking a little bit about mortgage insurance again, and it was a really good point. Let's bring that out to our listeners.
Well, there's, I guess people just assume that if you have less than, 20% down, that you're going to have mortgage insurance. And although that is a true statement, there are some ways to kind of work around it a little bit. And I don't think people talk about that a whole lot. They just kind of plug in, especially a lot of the big online lenders and things. They'll just plug it in and see who's got the best rate for that day, and then just give that to you. And it's like, oh, this is your mortgage insurance. But the reality is that we can shop around. We have about 8 or 9, I haven't really counted them, to be honest, different places that it spits out each one. And somebody with a lower FICO score might like Arch, or Arch might like that better, or somebody with a higher FICO score, there could be another one that is a little bit better. So we shop on like that, but we can also look at split mortgage insurance, where part of it is paid up front if we have a little bit of extra seller's contributions, that we didn't spend, or asking for them. Or we could go where it's all lender paid, where it's paid up kind of upfront, or just there's a lot of different variations that we can look to get people's payment a little closer to where they want it. Working, in conjunction with the buy downs or things like that. Anyway, I just thought it was something, well, that we were talking about a little bit, that we could mention that there's a lot of different things. If you take the time to sit down rather than just plugging your stuff in online and hoping for the best, we'll generally beat those guys on rate and fee anyway. So we might as well just come in local. And this was just another way that we could actually lower people's payments that, I don't know, so some other people seem to forget about, or not even know about.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think that's an excellent idea. And I didn't even know you could split the mortgage insurance payment. So
Yes.
yeah, I think this is great. It's Mutual Mortgage being creative, trying to come up with ways to still help people buy houses in this kind of environment, this kind of economic environment.
Yeah. To be fair, and I always will try to do that, even though it, part of me is cringing right now. There are some other local companies around here that I've seen doing a pretty good job of that. So anyway, it's not something we invented. It's just something that, I don't even want to say people get lazy, but a lot of people just haven't taken the time to dive into looking at the different things. If you were, working at Hooters last month, and now you're at one of the online lenders, you may not have had the training to get deep into some of these things. And a lot of these people are just order takers, and we have to live in the community here that we work in. So we try to, be experts on what we're doing. And that may not happen all the time online.
Yeah, but it's kind of an exciting time. The getting through the COVID and the housing market reaction to that, and now we have hyperinflation and the housing market reaction to that. And they're talking about all these layoffs, but then the job numbers went up, and we were discussing a little bit why that report might have been skewed. But
yeah, and not even might have been skewed. Honestly, it was skewed. It was intentionally skewed. Let's just say what it is. I'm kind of done. I'm the guy that has to sit and apologize for all this stuff in front of people, tax-paying people, and I would like to see some real stuff come out of Washington. And I don't know if anybody in Washington is capable of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And well,
do you personally think that there's going to be a recession?
I personally think it's if you look at it from a definition of a recession, I'll let anybody on, just go do the research yourself, and you could tell us if we're in a recession or we have been. Yes, absolutely. That should actually bode well for us and the rates and all that. But things just need to get corrected on a real scale. It can't correct itself if we continue to make up the numbers for whoever's agenda that needs that done for them in that quarter. So, eventually the truth does come out, and I do believe that we will see some lower rates. Everybody's calling for recession, so I assume they'll admit it at some point. But if you just look at 2 quarters of contraction,
Right.
I mean, if you look at the definition, you just keep changing the definition. I mean, come on, at least come up with a better name
Well,
than
and we had
population
those 2
control adjustment.
quarters. Yeah, we had those 2 quarter retraction last year, and
Mhm.
then it stopped, and then, and now here we are. So, but either way, my concern, I guess, is the job loss, because the housing market is propelled mostly by people getting mortgages who have jobs.
Mhm.
So I don't know how the layoff situation is going in Southern Oregon. Most of the reports are talking about these giant layoffs on a national scale in the big urban areas. So I guess we'll just have to kind of see. But Southern Oregon seems to be plugging along sort of
Yeah.
okay.
And I mean, I'm still having a lot of people move here that are tech type people that are working for Tesla or working for
Me too.
Google, different places
Mhm.
like that have
Mhm.
remote jobs now. And I mean,
Yeah.
so I do think we are a little buffered here, in our little area. Sadly for the regular kid, it is hard to save up and buy a house, but I see it every week. And it's still a really good thing to strive for and to try to do. And these numbers will, like I said, they will get reconciled, and we will see some lower rates. But get in there before, don't wait for that, because again, you don't want to be in a bidding war down the road.
Well,
But
and
just have a
also look at what's been lost if you didn't buy a house in the last even 18 months.
right.
This little bit of appreciation that we're reporting every week, if the house you purchased was 500,000, 4% 1 year is 20,000. So I really like the point that you made, Guy, that you've got to run all the numbers. It's not just your monthly payment and your debt to income. It's the taxes, the appreciation, the lifestyle, and all that. Not only wealth building, but security of being a homeowner and not being a tenant,
Yeah, I mean, and if
especially in
you're thinking,
Oregon.
oh, absolutely. And if you're thinking about it or your kids are thinking about it, obviously I'd love for them to come talk to me, but find somebody that does this, well for a living, and sit down and just do the math. And if it doesn't make sense, that's fine too, but you don't really know until you go and have a real conversation about everything.
Yeah,
So
I just don't think they're running all the numbers.
correct.
I think that's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Or
Yeah.
maybe they are, and it's not the right answer for right now. And
Well, but
that's
at least
okay
they
too, but
did,
at least
and it's data driven, right? And that's
Yes.
what we like. And you can make whatever decision you want, but we just really want everybody to be good consumers and have the facts.
Yes, that is the goal for sure.
So, Guy, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's your cell phone? 30 seconds.
At 541-944-6987. And I pretty much answer that all the time.
He
So,
pretty much does, and he also will text if he can't answer.
God, I hate texting, but I will do it.
Well, that's it for the show today. Thank you, Guy Giles, Mutual Mortgage. The show will be repeated tomorrow on the same station, 99.5 FM KCMX. And thank you for listening. Hug those you love. We'll be back again next week. Bye now.